Well, let me tell you how it all began for me. Like many others, I had to make a shift. Life threw a curveball, and I had to pivot. That's how I landed in sales. Now, I'll be the first to admit I didn't know the first thing about sales. No training, no background, just me in a suit I couldn't afford to wrinkle. For the first 6 months, I failed miserably. And when I say failed, I mean I lost weight from failure. If you want a diet plan, try commission-based sales with no skills. You either learn fast or get skinny. But here's the insight I gathered from those long, hungry days. Every master was once a disaster. And just because you don't know something today doesn't mean you can't become a master of it tomorrow. My mentor, Earl Schoff, once told me, if you stay long enough at the table of discipline, the banquet of success will always serve you. And I stayed. Hungry, but I stayed. Because failure has a way of introducing you to yourself. You find out what you're made of when the paycheck doesn't come. Now, a lot of folks today are waiting for something magical to happen before they commit. They want to feel passionate before they get to work. But passion doesn't come first, discipline does. Passion is the reward you get after doing the work, not before. Most people say, well, let me see if this is my passion. But let me give it to you straight. You don't find passion by dipping your toe in the water. You find it by diving in head first. Give your heart to the work, all of it. Because here's what happens when you do. Either you discover this is the right mountain to climb, or you find out fast that it's not. But you won't know from the sidelines. I often say work becomes fun once you become good at it. And that's not just a line. That's a life lesson. When you give yourself fully to the task, you unlock something. If the spark's not there after the sweat, well, then maybe it's time to pivot. But first, earn your way to clarity. See, one of the big mistakes people make is waiting to feel excited before they commit. But excitement is what shows up after mastery arrives. It's not the opening act, it's the grand finale. In my early days, I met men who were making fortunes selling the same thing I was selling. Same territory, same product, same economy. And yet they were driving Cadillacs while I was looking for bus fare. Why? Because they had committed to the process. They had put in the time. They didn't say, let's see if this works. They said, I'm going to make this work. That's a different level of energy. And let me tell you, work done halfway gets you half the harvest, if any. You've got to go all in. Earl Schoff once said, if you want to be a leader in your field, act like it today, not tomorrow. And that's the truth. Decide. Don't dabble. People who dabble never feel the full power of the path they're on. They quit too early. But those who commit, they light up their whole life. Now let's talk about curiosity, because that's the seed of creativity. Earl used to tell me, never lose the child inside you who keeps asking why. Smart people ask questions. The dumb ones think they know everything already. The ones climbing the ladder are the ones who ask, why not? What if? How can I do it better? When I got around successful people, I noticed something. They weren't always the loudest in the room, but they asked the most questions. They were listening, watching, learning. You want to grow fast? Ask more questions. Simple as that. Children are creative because they're curious. Adults lose creativity when they stop being curious. And the minute you stop learning, you start decaying. Don't become an old dog too early. Stay fresh, stay hungry, stay questioning. The ones who thrive are the ones who never settle for good enough. They keep asking how it could be better. Faster, easier, cleaner, smoother. That's creativity. That's progress. And that's what keeps your career, your income, and your life moving forward while everyone else stalls out. Now let me give you something that changed the game for me. I came across a quote. Simple, sharp, and it hit me right between the eyes. It said, work is never fun until you're good at it. Now, doesn't that just clear the fog? We've been sold this dream that work should feel like play from day one. But let me tell you, the first few chapters of any worthwhile book aren't always easy reading. You've got to pay the price of discomfort, confusion, and false starts before the story gets good. That's how it works. And once you get good, now the lights turn on. Joy enters. Flow kicks in. But first comes effort, then comes ease. And once that ease comes, now you're in motion. Now you're not dragging yourself to the desk. You're pulled toward it. The goal isn't to chase fun. The goal is to get so good that fun shows up uninvited. Skill attracts energy. And energy attracts opportunity. So if you want more fire in your work, build more skill. Mastery always brings the joy. Now, give something your full focus for a year, maybe 2. And you'll be shocked at who you become. Most people don't realize how close they are to the joy they're after because they quit right before the magic happens. Don't quit in the dark. Wait for the sunrise. You see, we often hear, find your passion. But I say, find your momentum. Get good at something. Master the fundamentals. Then see how you feel. If you still don't love it, fine. Now pivot. But pivot with power, not out of panic. My mentor, Earl Schoff, used to say, be fully present with the task in front of you. It may unlock the next chapter. And he was right. You don't need to be in love with your job to give it everything you've got. Just give it your best. That's where the clarity comes. That's where your unique genius starts to peek through. Once you get into rhythm, once your instincts sharpen and your confidence builds, now you've earned the right to choose, but not before. You know, every one of us has genius buried inside, but most never dig long enough to find it. Earl Schoff used to tell me, Jim, if you spend your life sweeping the floor but never lift the rug, don't be surprised when you miss the treasure. See, genius doesn't always come wrapped in fireworks. Most of the time it shows up in silence. In your questions, in your habits, in the way you think when no one's looking. The people who rise to the top aren't always the most talented, but they are often the most curious. They're the ones asking what if and why not. They keep their minds open like windows on a spring day, always letting new air in. I've seen it over and over again. The most successful people in any room are often the ones still asking questions like a child. Children are curious by default. They poke, they prod, they pull things apart just to see how they work. And somewhere along the line, we stop doing that. We get older and worse. We get certain. And certainty, without curiosity, shuts the door on growth. Stay green, my friend. It's the dry wood that burns out fast. Let me give it to you straight. If you're not asking questions, you're coasting. And if you're coasting, you're going downhill. Now, what makes a creative thinker? Not fancy degrees or perfect grammar. It's the willingness to be wrong today so you can be right tomorrow. Creative thinkers are humble thinkers. They admit when they don't know. And then they find out. They ask, they read, they listen. That's how they gather new strategies, new tools, new ways to win. Now compare that to the fellow who says, I already know. That man is stuck. Because the minute you close the door on learning, you start aging fast. Not just in years, but in energy, in ambition, in freshness of spirit. Your soul gets stale. So if you want to stay sharp, stay humble, ask the next question. Read the next page. Shake the dust off your assumptions. It's not the new app that'll save your career. It's the new attitude. Now let's talk about inertia. That old trap of doing what you've always done, just because you've always done it. Ever met someone who's in a routine so deep they could live the next 10 years on autopilot? I call that a life on loop. Same job, same thoughts, same complaints. And yet they wonder why the results haven't changed. But here's the deal. Life doesn't adjust to you. You adjust to life. The moment you stop evolving, the world keeps spinning. And you fall behind. Change only happens when you introduce something new into the system. New information, new action, new insight. If you're not upgrading your input, don't expect a better output. A man once told me, I've got 20 years of experience. I said, no, sir. You've got 1 year of experience repeated 20 times. Now that's the trap of inertia. It keeps you moving in circles and disguises itself as progress. But here's the good news. That trap, it's not locked. You can step out of it anytime. It doesn't take a miracle. It just takes a decision. Just one idea, applied with consistency, can set a whole new chain reaction in motion. I've seen it. One new question can lead to a new book. One new book can lead to a new mindset. One new mindset can lead to a new opportunity. And that opportunity, well, that could be your breakthrough. But first, you've got to be willing to disturb the comfortable. Break the routine. Lift the rug. Ask the hard question. That's the work of a growth-minded person. That's the path to reinvention. And that's how you keep yourself in the winner's circle. Not just once, but again and again. When I first discovered the idea of continuous learning, I felt like a man stumbling into a gold mine without a map. I couldn't believe something so powerful had been hiding in plain sight. Imagine, anything you need to learn, you can learn. There are no limits. You're not bound by your background, your schooling, or even your past mistakes. That was a revelation. You can learn your way into almost any future you desire. And here's the kicker. You don't need to do it all at once. Just a little each day. My mentor, Earl Schoff, once told me, if you read just one good book a month for the next 10 years, you'll stand so far above the crowd they'll need binoculars to see you. That's how powerful learning is. Not dramatic bursts of information. Just steady daily input. That's how you grow a strong tree. That's how you build an empire. 10 hours a week. That's all it takes to change the entire trajectory of your life. Now, most folks will say 10 hours. I don't have 10 hours. But let's get honest. You do? It's just hiding. It's hiding in the scroll time, the TV time, the gossip time, the time you spend doing things that move you nowhere. Let me ask you, what if you turned your car into a classroom? What if you turned your waiting room into a reading room? What if, instead of zoning out while you drive or commute, you use that time to zone in on something that feeds your future? One of the best shifts I ever made was turning my car into what I call a mobile university. No, it didn't come with ivy on the walls or a cafeteria, but it fed my mind just the same. You pop in an audio program and suddenly you're not wasting time. You're investing it. And those little investments, they add up to compound interest in your mind. Suddenly you're sharper, you've got better ideas, you're quoting things in meetings, you're climbing faster. Why? Because you decided to learn on purpose. Let me tell you a little secret about time. Time is obedient. It'll do exactly what you command it to do. But you have to give it a job. If you let your hours wander, your days will vanish. You don't manage time. You assign it. And once I assigned time to learning, my whole world changed. I was no longer reacting to the world. I was preparing for it. I'd walk into rooms where I once felt small, and suddenly I knew more than I thought I did. I wasn't trying to impress. I had simply become more valuable. And that's the real reward of learning. Increased value. When your value goes up, everything follows. Your confidence, your income, your influence. And people begin to say, there's something about you. But it's not something, it's skill, sharpened in silence. So I say, make learning as automatic as brushing your teeth. No applause needed. No fanfare required. Just do it because it's right. Because you said you would. Because the version of you 5 years from now is depending on the choices you make today. Turn off what numbs you and turn on what builds you. That's how you climb. That's how you grow. That's how you rise. And every step is available to anyone who simply decides to become more than they were yesterday. You know, I've always believed the fastest way to change your life is to change how you use your idle time. Most people treat the moments between tasks as throwaway minutes. A little music here, a little gossip there, maybe a daydream or two. But let me tell you, it's what you do in those in-between moments that separates the good from the great. I used to say, turn your car into a classroom. And I meant it. Because if you drive 10 hours a week, that's 500 hours a year. And if those 500 hours are spent feeding your mind, listening to sales strategies, communication skills, financial education, that's equivalent to a semester at a top university, but better. Because you're learning what's relevant. You're learning what you can use. Earl Shoaff said, be selective about what you put in your ears. It becomes your life. And he was right. Garbage in, garbage stays. But wisdom in, progress flows. So don't waste those silent hours. They are rich soil. Plant something worth growing. Now let's get real practical. The reason people don't learn is not because they don't have time. It's because they don't have a plan. They say things like, I'll read more, or I should take a course. But should doesn't change anything. You've got to schedule it. Make it sacred. Turn someday into Monday. Because the person who plans the learning wins the earning. That's how it works. If it's not in your calendar, it's not in your life. When I was broke and starting over, I didn't say I'll learn when I have time. I said every day 30 minutes. Book, pen, notebook. I built that into my day like brushing my teeth. Why? Because the habit of learning was worth more than the book itself. The discipline mattered more than the title. You can finish a book and forget it. But if you build the habit, you never run dry. That's the difference between casual readers and committed learners. Casual readers visit the material. Committed learners live in it. I remember someone asking me once, Jim, how do you stay so sharp? I told them I stay sharp because I sharpen daily. See, a dull axe won't cut even the softest wood, but a sharp one, it'll handle any tree in the forest. Your mind works the same way. If you don't sharpen it, it gets rusty. You lose your edge, your thoughts slow down, your confidence drops. But when you sharpen it, daily, intentionally, with books, seminars, good conversations, you start to cut through life's challenges like a hot knife through butter. And people will wonder, how does he do it? But they won't see the early mornings, the highlighters, the rewinding of that same 5-minute audio clip until it sinks in. That's the price. But, oh, the rewards. New doors, better decisions, faster recoveries, clarity under pressure. That's what daily learning buys you. So here's the challenge. Turn off the entertainment and turn on the education. You've already got the time, you just need the will. Build your personal library. Make your car your campus. Replace noise with nourishment. Every step of progress starts with a choice. And the best choice you'll ever make is to become a serious student of your own potential. Once you commit to that path, the climb begins. And the view, oh, it just keeps getting better. Now let's take this idea of learning a step further. You see, learning isn't just about knowledge. It's about transformation. It's not what you know that changes your life, it's what you apply. I've met plenty of people who were full of facts and theories, but they were broke, frustrated, and stuck. Why? Because they hadn't crossed the line from understanding to action. Let me say it like this. Knowing what to do and doing it are two different worlds. One lives in your head. The other lives in your calendar. The real power of learning is when it shows up in your decisions. That's when people notice. That's when your world shifts. You don't need to attend 10 seminars. Attend one and apply 10 lessons. Earl Shoaff used to say, don't measure learning by what you heard, measure it by what you did. That's gold. If you don't do something different tomorrow, then you didn't really learn today. You just listened. And listening is cheap. Action is where the value is. Now let me give you a concept that changed the game for me. The cybernetic guidance system. That's right. Human beings operate like guided missiles. When a missile is launched, it doesn't fly in a straight line. It veers off course, it adjusts, it recalibrates, and it keeps correcting itself until it hits the target. You and I are built the same way. Set a goal, and your mind starts working like radar. You try, you miss, you adjust. You try again, you overcorrect, you adjust. But as long as you stay locked in, you arrive. That's how it works. But here's the catch. You've got to have a target. No missile flies without a destination. And sadly, that's how some people live. They get out of bed and they wander. No target, no coordinates. And then they wonder why they never arrive anywhere that matters. Success is a direction, not a default. So set the goal, start the path, and let your inner system begin its magic. Let me take it further. The more actions you take toward a goal, the sharper your course corrections become. The first time you try something, you might miss by a mile. That's okay, miss boldly. But the second time, you miss by half, then a quarter. And soon you're on the mark. That's growth. That's why you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be in motion. The missile doesn't sit on the launch pad saying, what if I miss? It launches anyway. And so should you. Life's guidance system is waiting on your movement. And movement is the key. Momentum is the great multiplier. If you take small actions daily, your inner system gets smarter. It starts making better judgments, faster corrections. You learn quicker, you adapt faster, and before long, you're living the results you once only imagined. So don't wait until you have it all figured out. That day doesn't come. Start with what you know, just as you grow. Every step you take creates the path. And if you're off track, don't panic. Just correct. Course correction is not failure. It's wisdom. That's how you land the dream. Inch by inch, day by day, idea by idea. That's the secret. And it's available to anyone willing to take the first imperfect step and never stop refining. Now let's talk about something that often gets misunderstood. Change. People will say, well, you can't change people. And in some ways that's true. You can't change their height or their eyes or their blood type. But I'll tell you what you can change. Their skills. And when someone upgrades their skill set, they upgrade their future. See, personality might be fixed, but skill is flexible. You can't teach someone to grow taller, but you can teach them to grow sharper. You can't force someone to be honest, but you can teach them negotiation, sales, leadership, communication. The great separator in life isn't where you started. It's what you learned after you started. And the good news, skills are learnable. And if something is learnable, it's earnable. Once I got that idea into my bones, I never looked at the world the same way again. I didn't need to be born brilliant. I just needed to get better. And the better I got, the better things got for me. Now, let me make a point here that's so important it could change your income forever. People often wonder, why is it that two people doing the same job, same product, same market, same tools, can earn radically different incomes? You've seen it. One salesperson is struggling while another is thriving. In the same building with the same materials. What gives? It's not luck, it's not DNA. It's not the weather, it's skill. It's understanding the principles of performance. I started studying this 30 years ago, and the pattern is unmistakable. People who earn more usually do more, and they do it better. They've studied the game. They've sharpened the blade. They've trained their instincts. One man makes 10 times the money because he brings 10 times the value. And value, my friends, is the secret to wealth. If you want to earn more, serve more. If you want to rise faster, solve problems better. That's what companies pay for. That's what customers pay for. Not effort, results. And where does this rise begin? With incremental improvement. One step at a time. Most of us start out at the back of the line. Unsure, untrained, inexperienced. But what separates the front from the back is not luck. It's movement. Those who improve daily begin to move forward. Slowly at first, then faster. They read. They practice. They reflect. They apply. It's not magic, it's math. You do that for a month, you get a little better. You do it for a year, you get noticed. You do it for 5 years, now you're unstoppable. And the best part, You don't need to be 10 times smarter. You just need to be 10% more consistent, 10% more focused, 10% more curious. Stack enough tens and you become a giant. That's how you go from average to excellent. That's how you make the leap. So what's the real takeaway here? You don't need to reinvent yourself overnight. You just need to improve a little every day. Pick a skill. Work it like a craftsman. Get so good they can't ignore you. And when people ask, how'd you do it? You can smile and say, one step at a time every single day. That's how the back of the line becomes the front. That's how average becomes elite. And that's how the life you once dreamed about becomes the life you actually live. Now let's look at something that has become more important today than ever before. The speed of change. We're not living in the same world our grandparents did. Back then, you could learn one trade, one skill, and do it for a lifetime. But not anymore. In today's world, you could be at the top of your game in January and obsolete by June if you're not paying attention. Technology is moving fast. Markets are shifting. And here's the truth. 80% of everything you're doing today will be different in 5 years. The food you eat, the tools you use, the routes you take, the services you rely on. So the question isn't whether change is coming. It's whether you're changing with it. And the best way to stay relevant in a fast world. Continuous learning. It's not optional anymore. It's the entry fee. Earl Showoff used to say, you either keep up or you get left behind. And if you get left behind, you can't complain about where you are. You either learn the new game or sit on the bench watching others play it. So what's the solution? Simple. Learn daily. Improve weekly. Transform yearly. That's the rhythm of modern success. Now, I'm not talking about going back to school. I'm talking about being a student of life. Attend seminars, read books, take notes. Practice what you hear. Listen to people who've gone further than you. And pay attention to what they're doing, not just what they're saying. Success leaves clues, my friend. And the clues are everywhere. But most people don't pick them up. They walk right past them, distracted by comfort, convenience, or a little entertainment. I'll give it to you straight. Your television might be the most expensive thing in your house. Not because of what you paid for it, but because of what it's costing you. Every hour you spend staring at the screen instead of sharpening your skills is an hour delayed on the road to your potential. There's nothing wrong with a little fun. Just make sure your fun isn't robbing your future. You want to know how the top 5% got there? They gave up what the other 95% weren't willing to. That's the difference. They said no to the noise. They turned off the distractions. They created routines that served their dreams. And they stuck to those routines long after the mood wore off. Let me challenge you right now. Pick a time each day, even if it's just 30 minutes, and dedicate it to learning. No excuses, no skipping. Just show up, learn something useful, and apply it. Do that for 1 year, and you'll be unrecognizable. People will say, what happened to you? And you'll say, I started feeding my mind instead of just my appetite. That's the secret. Starve your distractions. Feed your focus. Carve out sacred time for growth. Because once you get serious about your growth, life gets serious about rewarding you. When you begin to rise above the noise, you start to hear different music. It's the rhythm of progress. It's the sound of someone becoming exactly who they were meant to be. Let's talk about goals, real goals. Not wishes, not fantasies, but solid, measurable goals that drive your life forward. You see, every rung on the ladder of success is tied to a skill, and every skill is tied to a goal. That's why I say, you can't hit a target you can't see. If you want a better income, a stronger business, more confidence, more peace. Each one requires a skill. And skills don't come by accident. They come by intention. One of the great tragedies is how many people set goals without considering what they need to learn to achieve them. They say, I want to double my income, but they never ask, what do I need to master to deserve twice the income? That's where the breakthrough happens. When you connect your goals to your learning. You don't rise by dreaming higher. You rise by preparing better, and preparation means practice, study, repetition, and focus. That's how you earn the climb. Goals without preparation are just decorations on a vision board. They look pretty, but they don't pay the rent. Now let's get practical. Master one skill at a time. Don't try to become a genius in 5 different areas all at once. You'll only end up deluded and frustrated. Instead, pick one: speaking, writing, sales, leadership, negotiation. And go all in for 3 months, 6 months, even a year. Study it, practice it, get feedback on it. Build it until people start to notice. That's when you know it's time to move to the next one. Stack enough of those, and one day you'll look around and realize you've become a person of extraordinary value. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. The key is focus. When I was young and broke, I didn't need to learn everything. I just needed to learn the right things. And once I did, the rest of life started rearranging itself in my favor. That's the magic of targeted self-education. When you grow, everything grows with you. But here's the warning. If you ever stop climbing, you start sliding. There's no staying still in today's world. You're either advancing or retreating. And people don't always notice it right away. That's what makes it dangerous. They stop learning, and for a while everything seems fine. But slowly their ideas get dull, their energy fades, their edge disappears. Before long, they're wondering what happened. I'll tell you what happened. They paused the climb. And when you pause the climb, the world doesn't pause with you. Others pass you by. That's not to scare you. That's to wake you. Keep climbing. Always. Because the ladder of success doesn't end. It just leads to new heights. And the view only gets better the higher you go. So if you're feeling stuck, don't lower the goal. Raise the skill. If you're feeling tired, don't shrink your vision. Renew your discipline. The climb is hard, yes, but it's worth it. Because every new level you reach brings more clarity, more freedom, more power. And all of that begins the moment you say, I will not stay where I am. You take the next step, then the next. And soon the distance between you and your past is so great, you barely recognize the person you used to be. Lastly, let me leave you with a word that changes everything. How? You see, there are 2 kinds of people in this world. One asks, what's going to happen to me? The other asks, how can I make something happen? And that word, how? Oh, it's a door opener. It activates the mind. It stirs the soul. It flips the switch from passive to powerful. Every time you ask how, your brain gets to work like a factory on fire, producing ideas, options, solutions. It doesn't even need coffee. Just that one little word. How? Earl Shoaff used to say, leaders ask better questions. Followers wait for answers. And the best question a leader can ask is how? How can I double my income? How can I solve this problem? How can I reach more people? How takes you from victim to victor? It puts the steering wheel back in your hands. It tells your mind, let's get to work. Because in that question is hidden the action. And in the action is the breakthrough. Now compare that to those who don't ask how. They drift. They wait. They worry. They say things like, I hope things get better. But hope is not a strategy. Hope is good. I believe in it, but not by itself. Hope needs muscle. Hope needs direction. Hope needs how. Without that question, you sit in traffic hoping the light turns green. But with how, you find another road. You build a new bridge. You create your own lane. That's what separates those who watch life from those who shape it. Leaders are always asking how. Followers are always waiting on what. And if you want to lead, in business, in your family, in your life, start asking how every single day. And here's what happens when you do. You begin to innovate. Creativity turns on. You start seeing new paths that others miss. Harvard did a study. They found creativity as one of the biggest drivers of wealth. And what fuels creativity? Ideas. And what produces ideas? The word how. When you sit quietly and ask, how can I make this better? Your mind begins a search. It might not give you the answer in 5 minutes, but keep asking, keep searching. And eventually the answer comes. Sometimes in the shower, sometimes in a conversation, sometimes at 2 a.m. But it comes. Because your mind is working for you. And that's the secret of high performers. They don't wait for clarity. They demand it with focused questions. So I leave you with this. Your past doesn't matter as much as your next decision. Your future doesn't depend on luck. It depends on skill. And skill is available to anyone willing to learn. Don't just wish for more. Learn how to have more. Don't just hope for change. Ask how to become the kind of person who creates change. The power is in the question, and the greatest question of all. The one that transforms your direction, your mindset, your finances, your relationships, is the one that starts with how. Ask it every day. And then act on it. Because if you keep asking and you keep acting, there's no limit to where you can go. The future is not a place you go to wait. The future is a place you go to build. So go build it. One idea at a time. One skill at a time. One question at a time. And don't ever stop asking how.